You're listening to The Secrets of Sacred Art, where we unearth the hidden treasures, history, and deeper meanings in religious and sacred art. We're your hosts, Kathryn Laffrey
and Alix Murray. Welcome to episode number 40, the Valencian Sistine Chapel. In this episode, we will explore nearly 2,000 square meters of Baroque frescoes that adorn the vault, along with many other beautiful works of sacred art now carefully preserved within the Gothic architecture of St. Nicolas Parish in Valencia. Please follow The Secrets of Sacred Art in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on your favorite podcast app. For a fuller experience, you can join us on the SQPN YouTube channel, where you can see all the images we're discussing on the show. You can find us on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, on X at SQPN, or on Instagram at StarQuest Network. So, where is this hidden treasure, Kathryn?
Well, I have to say, the first time I went to Valencia with my daughter, we did not go here. And I'm kind of surprised we didn't, but then again, it's not that easy to find. It is actually located in the old city center of Valencia. And if you look at a modern day map of Valencia, especially a satellite image, you're going to see roads laid out that form a tight, odd little wonky shape around. You can kind of see it in the old map here for the city center of Valencia. And then there was the Great Wall that at one time had been around it with all of its towers that you can still tour. 2 of the 8 are still up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. But, you know, in this little city center, you have lovely little St. Nicholas. And even with a map, it's not easy to find.
No, it's not. It's not the center of it. Yeah.
Now, you're walking down. Here's one of what would be a main street in the area. So very narrow. And you're walking along. And I think we might have actually gone past it when we were looking for it the first time. So can you tell where it's located?
I can, actually. And it's only because I know the logo from the website. So it's that little kind of maroon and white little banner on the left-hand side. And I have to say, as I'm looking down this walkway, when Kathryn and I were kind of going over these slides, I have to say, I just commented, this could be any street in Europe. This is what's kind of lovely about if you go on holiday in Europe. But this actually reminds me of a church that we attended Mass in Denis in France. And it was just like this. It was down this, just, very unassuming. And then you walk in and you go, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I've heard that a lot.
Here. Yeah. It's almost like this.
It's interesting. It's like you don't see the front of the church.
Yes.
When you're walking down this street, it's like, where is it? You can't even see the bell tower because the buildings are all so close together. You're like, it's got to be around here somewhere. And then you turn and you end up with this little tiny opening between the buildings.
Yeah. So you're really, I was going to say, you're prepared to be really underwhelmed.
Yeah. It's kind of funny.
What is this going to be? Yeah.
What's going on here? I have to say, though, my daughter and I, we had been in the plaza for the main cathedral, which is only a 4-minute walk away. Mm-hmm. It was very close. So we were hanging out there. It was a warm day, and I was wearing a shirt that wasn't a tank top, but it didn't have sleeves. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have a sweater with me or anything because it was warm. It was Spain in the summer.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we walked down between the buildings here to come across the sign, and able to see it, but they were like, no tank tops, no shorts, be quiet. This is a house of prayer, and no photographs. I was like, okay, we're going to go back and change.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, because there's nothing like, I don't know. maintaining a certain personal decorum when you're going into a sacred place is so important. Not just for you, it's and everybody else. It's like, this is for you too.
Yeah. Well, the best thing about it is, while a lot of these churches, and when you go traveling, especially in places where maybe the church is listed as a museum, thankfully, even though St. Nicholas is listed as a museum, it is still a very active parish. And so, you're going to treat it with respect. People are praying there every day. When we went for our tour, there were people praying. And so they're always reminding you, shh, excuse me. And I did ask permission when I walked in. I was like, and I had a little card with me, my podcasting card. Your official podcasting card.
Yes.
May I take pictures for my podcast? And the woman was like, not camera. And I was like, no, on my phone. And she's like, okay, no flash. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's gorgeous. I'm glad they can see. I mean, one of the perks of having a podcast.
Yes. Yeah, that was really helpful a lot with like me being able to take pictures. So a little history about this place, because it's very unique. Valencia has a very unique Gothic tradition. And a lot of the Valencian Gothic architecture has been preserved. It's a very different take on Gothic. It's Gothic, but there's just always a little something different. I could actually say, like, in Valencia, there's a twist on it because some of their columns are just these beautiful twisted columns. So it's like just this slightly different, just a little something that makes it stand out as uniquely Valencian. And so in 1238, King James I had reconquered Valencia, and he decided to give this church to the Dominicans who were with him. And they consecrated the temple to St. Nicholas. And you see a nice little modern day icon that they have on display now. Beautifully done of St. Nicholas there.
Yeah.
And I love that on the site, and the St. Nicholas has a great website, and on their site they have this rendering of what the church would have looked like in 1238 after it was built. So you can see it was just a very plain, simple at the time. And there's still some churches you go into where you'll see all the stonework, when we were in the chapel of the Holy Chalice, you could still see all that stonework was still quite visible there.
Yeah, because the play of light on the stone and the arches and the shadows, it's quite beautiful, and it's always changing, as the light changes outside. It's its own special beauty.
Yeah, exactly. And it was much smaller than it is now. So it started off probably about a little over half the length that it is now. And during the 1500s, the church was extended to the size that it is now. And it had just your standard straight Gothic nave, rectangular shaped with the rounded asp. And then they started building in, you had between the buttresses, the side chapels. And then in the end of the 17th century is when they started to bring in a Baroque renovation of this temple. And over a 3-year time period, they painted all the frescoes that you see in the church now.
That's astonishing that they did this in 3 years.
Yeah. So from 1697 to 1700, all that fresco work went in.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yes. Take note. That's amazing.
Yeah. So our little picture in the corner here is the two gentlemen who came up with this beautiful design scheme. I'm guessing it was more than just the two of them painting.
Although you never know. Yes, but maybe,
you never know.
They had
here.
a workshop.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have Dionys Vidal, and he was following the plan that was sketched out from his mentor, which is Antonio Palomino. So there you have the two of them there and looking at the sketches for how it's supposed to be laid out.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cute.
It is. And I have to say, because I had some fun, it was like a word search for me, is trying to translate Latin. Some of them I just couldn't see. Like the angles made it really difficult. But next to these two gentlemen, it says verbe rone, which is word of mouth. And I don't know if that's maybe in reference to them or maybe something else. Not sure. But it is facing them. And it's like as you're looking directly at them, you can see those words very plainly. So maybe it is. Yeah,
you see the ox next to them. So they're nestled under an image of St. Luke.
Yeah, yeah.
So the temple is listed as the best example of coexisting Gothic architecture and Baroque painting or decor. And it's blended together beautifully. A lot of times what would happen when they would bring in the Baroque is they would actually put up a false ceiling down from the main ceiling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They did not do that here. This is actually up on the Gothic ceiling.
Yeah, and it works.
And then there's something special about this little place. And Alix, you want to tell them who's special from this little tiny place?
So this is very interesting. And it's a little, again, we're talking about popes being the first from. So this is the home parish of Pope Callistus III. And he was born Alfonso de Borja on the 31st of December in 1378 in Valencia. He studied grammar, logic, and arts in Valencia. And in 1392, he went to the University of Lleida, where he obtained a doctorate on both canon law and civil law. His early career was spent as a professor of law at the University of Lleida. In around 1411, he attended a sermon by St. Vincent Ferrer, who was a Dominican. And afterwards, St. Vincent said to the future pope, quote, "My son, one day you will be celebrated to be the ornament of your house and of your country. You will be invested in the highest dignity that can fall to the lot of man. After my death, I shall be the object of your special honor. Endeavor to persevere in a life of virtue." And later, as Pope Callistus III canonized Ferrer on the 3rd of June. And St. Vincent Ferrer was baptized at St. Stephen's in Valencia. So that's referencing episode 38. So you can go back and see how these are all connected.
And then in the picture here, the little Spanish tile, not little, it's pretty big on the wall.
Yeah, you can
the
tell.
Door.
Yeah.
It actually commemorates St. Vincent telling him that. Yeah, to get ready. And then also, it's like the dual image, and also him eventually canonizing St. Vincent.
Exactly. Yes. So the thing about Pope Callistus III was he was, they kind of didn't think he was going to do much because he was 77 when he was elected Pope. So he had to endeavor for a long time. So I kind of am thinking about, when God told Abram at the time, then Abraham, you're going to be the father of nations. And he's like, I'm 100 years old. And I just wonder if for all those years, if Pope Callistus, or the soon to be Pope Callistus, is going, when is this going to happen? And then 77, guess what? You're the Pope.
Yeah.
But he also, but what he did do was he reopened the trial for St. Joan of Arc, and she was exonerated and proven innocent. And so it's because he did that led to her being declared a saint. in the 19th century. And so there you go. I was just looking.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. And he also, this is the other thing, he celebrated the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, and he established the Feast of the Transfiguration.
Ah, okay.
So, and he died on the 6th of August, which is the Feast of the Transfiguration in 1458.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. So he's the a local boy.
Yeah. And it's neat to see his, portrait on the wall still there.
Yeah.
And when he was the rector of this parish, and, to be the first Spanish Pope, that's quite a neat little, worth visiting, folks, just for that alone.
Yeah.
But we're going to see more. So when you come in the side door, like I did when I was visiting, first, you got to stop for a second, because all of that imagery just blows your mind.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Thankfully, they pass out these wonderful pamphlets, and I made sure to take one with me, so you can do your own guided tour around. Some people were renting the headsets. I didn't want the noise in my head. I just wanted to soak it in.
No,
so
I know.
Really
I get what you mean. Yeah. You're directed by what you're drawn to versus kind of being guided in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we did was start with the side chapel. So this is starting all the way up at the front all the side chapels along the way. And this very first one, while it has a very prominent picture of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, this chapel is dedicated to Saint Denis, or as they call him, San Dionisio. So, and they have a special devotion to him in Spain. Here's this French saint in Spain.
Yeah.
And it came about as a way of they said they get to have 2 Valentine's Days in Valencia.
Okay.
And one of them is on St. Denis's feast day. And what they do is they gift, the guys will gift, wrapped in a little handkerchief, marzipan in the shape of different fruits and vegetables. That was kind of commemorating an event that had happened decades before, where the women were gifting the king fruits and vegetables. And so it also makes St. Denis in Valencia the patron saint of the patisserie chefs.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love marzipan. So
I do
think
too.
I'm just going to have to, oh my gosh. Oh, yes.
It explains why I saw it in the shops all around town. So.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I shouldn't go into how much I love marzipan, but I do. I like the taste, but I also like the way it looks. I'm a visual, so it looks really amazing. I love it. Anyway, I digress.
And then the very next chapel is we move away from the main altar, and this is next to the pulpit. You can see a little bit of it, the little dark brown box in the main picture there.
Yeah.
Beautifully decorated pulpit too. So this, oh my goodness, is by far my favorite statue of St. Joseph I have ever seen.
Yeah.
It has such beautiful movement and the interaction between St. Joseph and the child Jesus. And I mean, look at the shadow it cast. It's just so beautiful. It's lovely.
It is. Yeah. I've seen, there's a lovely terracotta statue of the Blessed Mother and baby Jesus interacting in a very similar way. And it just makes them the joy of the family. That's what, because I think sometimes you think about the everything the Holy Family went through. It's like, was anybody ever smiling? Was everybody stressed and like, oh my gosh? No, of course not. They were walking in faith and joy. And I think it's great when you get statues that actually capture that.
And it's interesting, you talk about everything they went through. The small, I think it's a wood statue next to the next image over is actually called The Flight to Egypt. This is the first time I've seen a representation of the flight to Egypt done this way. We basically have Joseph's arm wrapped around Mary and Jesus. Excuse me. And Jesus is kind of almost reaching out from Mary.
Yeah.
And they will actually take the statue from this side chapel and move it to the main altar on in and around that time for the Feast of the Holy Family. So also along with the statues, you'll see below St. Joseph is a beautiful enamel piece. And that's this here.
Wow.
And Alix, you know something about the enamel work that we're looking at here, don't you?
Yes. I mean, only that it's called Limoges, and it's from France. It's something that you can still get today. It's beautiful, beautiful work. And it's funny, when we were talking about this, I was like, oh, I think I might have a Limoges piece because I have a little statuette of Saint Anne and the Blessed Mother. But it turns out it's another type of French technique called quimper wear. So not the same thing at all. But these images are from around 1520, which I think are beautiful. It almost looks like cloisonné, but it isn't. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't it? It looks like these hard outlines. It looks like it's cloisonné, but it isn't. This is something that is, in this style of the Limoges tile work and ceramics and that sort of thing. And
it's neat that they believe that this is, it's kind of like a Spanish-French combination of work here, because they believe that the copper that this was created on is probably from the copper mines in Spain.
Yeah.
And then worked up by the enamel artist in France.
Yeah. And this is something that I hope people can kind of get a taste of. You have all of these different countries, but they're all part of the Catholic faith. And so you did have a lot of exchange of artworks and ideas and techniques. You would have stonemasons that came from England going to all parts of Europe to help build cathedrals. So you will see this connection. So it really is an international feel in all of these different places. And at the same time, you have the unique culture and style of the country that you're visiting. But so I just think that's a great example of it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and there's actually a few elements, I believe, that they brought in artists from Italy to help work on things.
Yeah, of course.
So we're still moving toward the back of the church here along the side chapels, and we have the side chapel dedicated to the archangels. Centrally, they have Raphael. You know him from the little fish there. We've featured a couple pictures of him, haven't we, over the episodes?
Yeah. Little fish, Kathryn.
Okay, it's a big fish. Let's just say it right.
Yes, it's massive.
And then they have St. Michael off to one side. I did not capture an image of, who am I missing here? St. Gabriel.
Yeah, St. Gabriel, yeah.
Yeah. And then also in the image with St. Michael in the red frame, you'll see the Stations of the Cross that they have in this church. Beautiful. And actually, they have a video clip of them doing the Stations of the Cross on their website. And the way that they take these stations and they'll bring them out of the chapels, so they're more just along the side aisle. And just beautiful. They're lovely just to look at.
That tile work is gorgeous as well.
Oh, yeah.
Spanish tile work. Amazing.
And then what a lovely image of Our Lady of Sorrows. It's the first time I've seen when we have the little angels down below her. There was one just wiping its eye. It's a little weeper.
Yeah. And she looks like, is she carrying the cloth with the face of Jesus?
Yes.
Very cool.
So, yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then next to that, we have the Chapel for the Sacred Heart. Again, another fascinating little angel. Caught my eye. Zooming in on him, he's holding Christ's toes and staring at the wound on his feet.
Aww.
It's just like, oh, he's just like adoring this glorious wound.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my image in the center there that I took when I was there is a little like off focus from the main feature, which is the Sacred Heart, because I right away was drawn to Teresa of Avila, who's my patron saint for my confirmation. And this is the first time I've seen a statue of her where the Holy Spirit looks like it's just floating in. It's barely attached to her halo.
Yeah, so,
another impressive Baroque statue there.
Yeah, I mean, you have to hand it to the Baroque statue artists. I mean, they did some incredible statues.
And then the one to the right is actually something we touched on. We were talking about all the different Black Madonnas. This is the Mary of the Pillar. And that's one of those early images that were first brought to Spain. So you'll probably see it a lot in different churches around Spain because it's such a significant image for them.
Yeah.
And then the last one on this side is St. Anthony of Padua. I love how they just did just the simple, deep brown carved wood for this. And then also in this chapel with him is St. Rita. And that's an 18th century statue of her.
And is that cloth? I meant to ask you that with a couple of these are the images of the Blessed Mother and maybe even, the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Is that kind of plaster or wood, or is there clothing cloth? Because this looks like cloth.
Some of the statues are dressed in real cloth.
Yeah, okay.
And this one is.
Yes, I was going to say that one looks like it is.
Yeah, it's something that you see a lot in around Spain. They'll put some beautiful. I mean, a lot of it might be. There are the fabric guilds in and around the area.
That's true. So but it is definitely one of their traditions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then a beautiful tiny little detail of a painting of the Nativity, which is just below the statue.
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice little added detail.
It is, yeah.
So this was the last one on that side, and it takes you to by the main door of the church, just off to one side, is the Communion Chapel. And this was constructed in 1760, and it was where an old abbey house used to be located. And it was small, square-shaped, much like the Chapel of the Holy Chalice off of the cathedral. And then they added on to it in the 1850s and brings it up to what it is today. Just gorgeous dome and the gold work and statuary and painting in here. And the main image of Our Lady is very much like the image that's in the basilica next to the cathedral of Our Lady of the Forsaken. That's and there's beautiful. One special picture in there, Alix. Off to our right is an image that you had shown me before. If you have the chance at home, folks, press pause and zoom in on this. It is a magnificent image of Christ. And Alix, you want to tell us what it represents?
Yes, so this is a very traditional image called Man of Sorrows. And that goes back to, I believe it was the prophet Jeremiah who speaks of the Man of Sorrows. And it's Christ after he's been taken from the cross and he's been laid in the sepulcher. And it goes back, it's a really, really old tradition. Some of these images and traditions have been kind of lost to time, not out of any other, not for any other reason other than that we just, I think there are certain images that have a little more staying power than others. But this is something that if you go into an old Gothic, especially medieval church, in this country, you can see painted panels of Man of Sorrows. And usually they're paintings. I don't recall seeing like a statue or any kind of relief carving of the Man of Sorrows. Not that that doesn't mean they're not out there, but I've only really seen them painted. But they're quite moving paintings for contemplation, I think. Really beautiful.
And then from the Man of Sorrows, we're going to jump back in Holy Week to Christ's Triumphal Ride.
I like going reverse, Kathryn.
I know. So when I walked into the chapel, you're taken right away by the altar. And then I turn and look, and there right next to me, almost as large as life, is just this beautiful image I had never seen done like this before. And this would be a statue that would be used in procession. And so beautifully adorned, the little donkey in his bridle, all braided and lovely, and Christ holding the palm branch. And the smaller image there, we were seeing the backside of it. This was actually taken from, I was watching a few of their masses from Holy Week, and they had brought this out on Palm Sunday. And people, as they were leaving, were placing flowers around the base.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you know, and I love how it doesn't seem like, from what you're saying, it's a living church. They're moving these statues. They still have meaning and help you interact more in the feast days. Seems like these beautiful statues. And also, again, check out that incredible tiling along the walls.
Yes. With Alix coming from tile country England, she's noticing all the tiles.
Yes, that's true. That's why, like there are tiles everywhere where I am. Yeah.
So as you step out of the communion chapel, we have the baptistry, and there would have been a lot of saints baptized in this one little spot. And here we have what was once an altarpiece of Calvary by Rodrigo de Osana, and it's considered to be the first work of Valencia, or of Renaissance style art in Valencia. And it was commissioned in 1476. And they say that it is his greatest work that he did.
You can definitely see the influence that the Flemish masters had. I mean, I'm just thinking about Jan van Eyck when you look at this painting so much, and just the folds of the fabrics around Our Lady of Sorrows, definitely. And I'm thinking to the left of her, the right to her, that must be Joseph of Arimathea. He's like robed, and it looks like he's got lots of ripped robes, and looks like he's trying to convince someone, let me take the body down so we can bury it. Yeah. And you had mentioned, Kathryn and I always love noticing animals, and you had mentioned this little, right at the foot of the man to the right in like the purple velvet cloak. You were saying that's a little dog?
It's just this little brown dog, but it's the first time I've seen one where the dog isn't attentive to looking at anyone in the scene. He seriously looks like he passed out, as if the dog couldn't stand the scene himself. He's just mid-stride on his side.
That's true. Do you know what I was thinking? He looks more like a little pig.
I had a hard time trying to distinguish whether it was a pig or a dog, but it seems more like a dog. Yeah, so it's just a little short-haired dog.
Exactly. I was going to say, in my life, I have seen dogs that are very pig-like. So, yeah. But it's a beautiful, beautiful painting, painting. And I tell you another, to the other side again, a little bit of a word hunt. And Kathryn, why don't you so we've been going through trying to spot words in Latin that we can read and translate, or not, as the case may be. And this one, it says sacramentum regenerans, which is the regenerative sacrament. But that is not necessarily how it's written in that you would see it traditionally, isn't it?
No, it's like when I first started searching for it, I was surprised that it said regenerans. And I was like, okay, so it's like the sacrament that regenerates, renews, kind of. It's just like just a slightly different variation than how you'd see it. And I can't remember the current ending right now.
Yeah. But
it's always fun to piece together the words, because if you look at this, there's a lot of hyphening and bridging longer words together.
Yeah, in order to get everything on the shield. Yeah. And I'm thinking, and I know, say something about this incredible detail that you have on the right. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, so the smaller image, which is the first in the 5 lower panels in the predella, I think is what it is. And this is Saint Anne holding Saint Mary, holding the child Jesus. Yeah. So just, it's a very unique really image.
It is. I love it. And I love even just the 3-dimensional scroll work, if that's the right term to use. It's just fascinating.
Yeah. So as we move from the baptismal area, and now we're starting to work our way up the other side toward the main altar, we meet here again, our Saint Vincent. Yeah. Now, he was born in Valencia in 1350, and he was a Dominican friar, noted for his work as a preacher. What a surprise, Dominicans, right?
I know. Just go figure.
And he did travel throughout all of work. And as Alix told us earlier, we have our little papal connection there. And above him, the Angel's Book, again, doing our little word search. You could do that all through this whole church, finding little phrases and words. The Latin here says, fear God and give him honor. Yes. Good thing to remember.
And is that a papal mitre, or is that like just a bishop? I can't tell.
It might be the papal mitre, just for his connection to.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
The Pope. Yeah, maybe he said this to him.
Yeah, maybe. It's good words to keep in mind.
Yeah, and with how close the churches are, especially only the 4-minute walk from here to the cathedral, they do have processions when St. Vincent is processed to and from the cathedral. Okay. Yeah. And then next to him is one of the most beautiful side altars. It has its own dome that's very well lit. And this is for it's the Chapel of the Immaculate Conception. In the center, we have a statue of Mary being assumed into heaven. And below her would be the Dormition of Mary. And then on either side of her are her parents. So we have St. Joachim and St. Anne.
Yeah, with a little child, Mary. Yeah.
Yep.
Look at how St. Anne's, how her cape is or cloak is blowing, across her. It's really, the movement in these statues is incredible.
Yes. Yeah, you get a lot of flowing movement in the Baroque statues.
You do. You really do, yeah.
And then next to her, we have the chapel dedicated to St. Jude Thaddeus. And I was telling Alix earlier, this is probably one of my favorite statues of St. Jude. A lot of the statues I've seen here around the States is he looks like he's wearing a giant gold medal with the face of Jesus on it. And he'll sometimes have a flame on top of his head. I like this version better where he's holding the holy napkin. And this takes you to the Mandelion of Edessa. And this is, I had talked about this in a previous episode. I couldn't remember which one, and I couldn't remember who the apostle was who got to carry the image of Jesus to the king, King Abgar V, to heal him because he had heard about Jesus, wanted to know more about him, wanted to be healed. Jesus told him he couldn't go, but that he would send someone. It was St. Jude who got to bring the cloth that Christ had pressed to his face.
Yeah.
And, took it to him. So this is, I think, part of that whole Holy Grail story too, all the little bits and pieces.
It is. I know. It all starts coming together, Kathryn.
It is. It all coming together now. And then on the side wall here is this beautiful painting. At first glance right away, I'm thinking, oh, this looks like a Juan Duanes. But found out that this is actually done by Nicolas Parish, and he is one of the outstanding painters during the Valencian Renaissance that came out of the studio of the Missat family. So he did work with Juan Duanes and his father.
Yeah. Do you know what? As I'm looking at this painting of Christ and the pillar, if you look to the left of the painting, you can see the pillars. You can see one of the pillars that's on either side of the statue of St. Jude, and it looks almost. I don't know. It's like I'm making a connection between those two, that pillar and the painting. Maybe because the pillar looks like it's. I know it's just the coloration in the stone that the pillar's made of, the marble, and it's almost like blood. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And so it was a really
perfect selection of material.
That's what I mean. I just think that, again, the way sacred art is positioned in a church is so important. And I just think your eye naturally is drawn to, like my mind is making a connection between this image of the pillar and this other pillar that looks like it has blood on it. And I just, it draws you deeper into that reality of Christ's scourging. I think it's beautifully done. Yes. I have to think it's so perfect. They must have been thinking that, like, that's what they want you to think.
Yeah, definitely a good visual connection. And the way everything's so perfectly laid out, I'm not surprised that it fits so well.
Exactly.
So as we move forward in the church, the next one we come across is the chapel dedicated to Jasper de Bono. So I've like, okay, who's Jasper? He was born in Valencia. He was a merchant and soldier before he entered the order of the Minims. Have you ever heard of that order?
No. Yeah. It might not be around anymore, but yeah.
Okay.
Could have been it could be a very local order in Valencia that's not around anymore. We have the Order of St. Winifred in Shrewsbury, and it's only there, so it could be something similar.
Well, maybe one of our sacred art sleuths out there can look up and tell us about that order.
Yeah.
He was known for excelling in confession, preaching, and charity, and he was the provincial of his order. His relics are preserved here. And he's just below his relics, or just below an image of Our Lady of the Rosary. And then just recently to this chapel, within the last 8 years, they've added some modern saints. So we have up on the upper left, we have Mother Teresa of Calcutta. Next to her is Padre Pio. And then below them, we have 3 popes. We have Pius X, John the 23rd, and John Paul II. and I'm going to, it's just the three of them together are just adorable. What's it like to hang out with these three? I mean, that's like,
go. Guess you have to get to heaven, Kathryn, and find out.
I know. It's just got to work on that.
Yeah.
And then across on the other side, we have a saint of Spain in Saint Jose Maria Escriva. Of course, as we're recording, I get a reminder pop up on my phone to start the novena for Saint Jose Maria Escriva. Like, what a fun connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then next to him is another Spanish blessed, and that's Alvaro Portillo. And he's a Spanish Catholic bishop. He was also an engineer, and he served as the prelate of the Opus Dei. So that's the connection between the two of them. And then down below them, we have St. Edith Stein, St. Maria Goretti, and St. Maximilian Kolbe.
Yeah.
So, Alix, what do you think of how they grouped these saints together?
I think it's really, well, I mean, the three popes, the three saints who are popes, I mean, that's kind of an easy one. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And obviously the two popes and their association with Opus Dei. The two I find really fascinating are the grouping of St. Edith Stein, St. Maria Goretti, and St. Maximilian Kolbe. I think, obviously, these were victims of profound injustices.
Yes.
And who really showed their love for God, their faith in God, and the mercy of God through these saints. So I think that would be their connection. It's a very powerful image, I think. I have to say also, so glad to see these modern saints depicted in such a beautiful and dignified way. I have to say that.
Yes.
And really, and so they do look, these images look like they belong and fit very comfortably in this extraordinary church.
Yeah, knowing all the other paintings that are around them, how seamlessly this fits in. Wow.
This is what I'm saying. Yes, and you can do it. And, so I guess what's really hits me is I've seen lots of images of St. Maria Goretti. And if you know kind of her really essentially martyrdom that happened, but I've never seen her depicted next to adults. And that really hits hard.
Yes.
You see her, oh, wow. And it was really just looking at it now, what an impact. What a beautiful, beautiful image. Yes. Oh, it's beautifully rendered. Now, I want you to tell me, what do you think the connection is between St. Teresa of Calcutta and Padre Pio? Because I'm sure they're...
For me, they are just two very outspoken saints of their time and in their place.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of how I saw the connection between. I mean, they look like they belong together. Quite honestly,
they do. Yes, they do. Yeah,
but yes, both very direct, spunky saints.
Yeah, and I think you said a saint for the time. You know, we needed to hear Saint Teresa of Calcutta when she was here. We needed to hear her voice here on earth, and she lived the gospel, as did Saint Padre Pio. Yeah, not maybe they didn't make they probably didn't make everybody comfortable, in their company, but that's okay.
Well, talking about not always being comfortable, we need to move on to this.
Nice segue.
I know. Yeah. So this chapel just makes you stop in your tracks.
Yeah. Wow.
So we have the Chapel of Cristo del Fossar. And I had to have Bridget, my daughter who speaks Spanish, help me. What's Fossar? Couldn't figure that out. It's actually a very old terminology in reference to not only Christ being laid in the tomb, but also to like memory of a cemetery that was in the area for the chapel.
Oh, wow. So it's a very specific
It's a very specific term, yes.
Yeah, okay.
This altarpiece is a huge masterwork. It is the work resulting from the collaboration between Vicente Misap and Juan Duane. So father and son worked together on this. The central panel is flanked by 4 smaller images. We have St. Peter Martyr, St. Nicholas, and then below them you have St. Christopher and St. Sebastian. And the upper part, they call the attic, you have the Visitation of the Virgin. It's an image that you don't see very often. This is Christ after his resurrection visiting his mother.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then above her, you have the Eternal Father. And then you also have the archangels, and you have St. Joseph, St. Vincent, and then the 5 panels down below in the predella. And I zoomed in on the 3 central panels there. These, they believe, were done by Juan Duanes. Like this was like his section to work on. And so it's just neat to see this collaboration of father and son, how incredible this work is. It is.
And you can see that head tilt, that Juan Duane's head tilt in the scourging. So, yeah, and I think if you go back, I think you did a close-up of an image of God the Father, and we were debating whether or not we think Juan Duanes did that as well. So maybe that's
with
another one.
French work, yeah.
Yes. And so maybe, encourage people to go back and just take a look at that, and you can start to draw out certain things. It's almost like the signature of these artists. They didn't sign everything, but this is how we know who painted what, is because you can't help but put yourself into your work. And Juan Duanes definitely did that head tilt.
Yeah, and we'll take a deep dive into the statue of Christ in repose at the end. But for right now, speaking of all these patrons that made all of this happen in this church, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Sacred Art. Your generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Sacred Art and all the shows on StarQuest. To become a patron, visit sqpn.com/give. All right, so we went all the way around the church, Alix.
Yes.
It's time to look up.
Look up. Yes. Okay. So this was something I was trying to think of how I would react going into this place. I definitely want to go. But as I said, I'm very visual, as are you, Kathryn. And I, a lot of times, things that I see, this sounds so weird, but I don't know how else to describe it. Do you know, like you can hear what you see, if that makes any sense?
Yes.
I know that makes sense to you. Yes. And
yes, I've actually heard colors.
Yes. And so going into, there have been places that I've gone into, and when I've left, I actually have a headache, not because I was having like a stressful time or it wasn't enjoyable or incredible. It was just because the combination of, for me in my head, the sound, the music, shall we say, and the visual was so overwhelming. I needed to take it a little bit at a time, like go in, take it in, maybe step outside, and then go back in and see another space. And just even looking at this online and looking at the photographs that you sent, I was like, do you know what? I think walking into this place, it would be like walking into listening to like a brass band in a very small space. Like this.
Yeah, a huge orchestra in your living room.
Yes. And that's what it was like visually like for me. So I think, and the ceiling is what does it. There's just so much to take in. I think I would, I would be overwhelmed in a good way, but it's good to see this because, and to kind of know that about yourself, because I know when I go and see this church, I know how I'm going to approach it. I think if I walked in and I saw this, I would have been like, and not expecting it, I would have been incredibly overwhelming. But anyway, having said all of that, so if there's anybody out there who is like Kathryn and me, and you can hear colors and paintings, and just, you know who you are, and just keep that in mind when you're looking at these images. So I learned a new term when looking at these images of the ceiling. So these are lunettes, and you can see just the black outline here is from the website for the church, which let's encourage everyone to just look at that website, because talk about deep dives.
Yes.
Yes. But a lunette is, it's French for little moon. And it's a crescent or half moon shape or semicircle of architectural space or feature, variously filled with sculptures or painting, glazed and filled with recessed masonry. A lunette can also be segmental, and it can be an arch or an arc taken from an oval. And you also have lunette windows, which are commonly called half moon windows or fan light. I think a lot of people might have heard that term, especially when you have bars separating it in panes that fan out radially. So that's what these are. So these are the lunettes of St. Nicholas, and
each formed by where the arches cross each other.
Yes. So they've used, as you were saying, so these lunettes, these spaces would have been like a void in this space in the ceiling that was formed with the Gothic arches. And so what they did when the Baroque frescoes were painted, they took advantage of this shape that was already there. They didn't try to modify it. And I think this is why it, as you said in the beginning, Kathryn, why it blends so beautifully is because of that. So now each lunette has a main scene from the saint's life. So the two saints we're focusing on here are St. Peter Martyr and St. Nicholas of Bari, or St. Nicholas of Myra, whichever your preference is. And each lunette has a main scene from the saint's life, and it occupies its center, and it's arranged chronologically in each saint's life, and they complement one another. The scene is always escorted by two angels, and they're different according to their hierarchy. So take a look at the hierarchy of the angels. So you have the cherubims and the seraphims, but there's a lot to look at here. A lot. Trying to find the angels. And I'm just taking in so much here.
And it's funny, we've been looking at these for days, setting this up, and I'm just now noticing, because I was like, okay, follow the hierarchy of angels. So I'm looking up, as it goes up toward that center piece of the arch. And it's like, oh, they painted the ceiling to look like there's open windows at the top.
Exactly.
It just now hit me.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the one on the left is St. Peter Martyr reciting the creed to his uncle, who was a Cathar, by the way. And if you look at the angels on either side, kind of more towards the top, you've got one that looks like he's holding a sun over his head. And then the other one is holding the triangle, which a lot of times represents the God the Father. And so I'm just wondering if this one on the right might be the angel of the Lord.
Oh, wow.
That's what I'm wondering.
Wow, those are fascinating.
I know.
There's always something more to see.
There's always something more to see. And this church seems to be it's like the TARDIS. Amazing.
It's bigger on the inside.
It is. It totally is. And so in all of the lunettes, the scenes are accompanied by text from Holy Scripture, and they also point to an outstanding virtue that Palomino described as a Christian enterprise. So they part of the plaques are going to be written in Latin, the a virtue that you're supposed to think of, or that's supposed to come to your mind. And then at the top, you have a small quote from Holy Scripture. So there is a lot going on. A lot.
I think the virtues are the little wedge at the top, aren't they? And then
yes, you're right. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, because on the scripture quote, they actually give you like where it's from, which is really neat. So, I mean, if you want to have a whole Bible study on this ceiling, you could. Yeah,
your neck might hurt in the end, but I guess it would be worth it. It's really, I mean,
maybe just use the images on the computer.
They could lie down on the floor in the church having your Bible study.
Okay.
But it's just, I don't know what else what I can compare this to. I think one of the things that makes this so extraordinary, Kathryn, is the fact that they incorporated the Baroque with the Gothic. And that's what makes it does work really well. It really does. Because as people probably know, Baroque is not my favorite style, but boy, this is incredible. And I think it is just the one of the beautiful things about Gothic architecture is the movement, the way light and shadow works in it. And I just imagine this must look like a living ceiling of things if you spend any time in that church. Oh,
very much living.
Yeah.
So shall we take a stroll through their lives?
Sure. Let's do that.
So
do we want to tell everybody who St. Nicholas is?
Santa.
Yes, exactly. Saint Nicholas. Yeah. So so this goes back to the original St. Nicholas. Yes. Mm-hmm. So, and again, these images are meant to, they want you to associate one with the other as well. So they're supposed to be making the links in the same way that there were links being made between the modern saints, the way they were grouped. These lunettes are grouped so that you can relate the two lives of the saints. And so we have the first one, and I think I've mentioned this before, but people might not know, but St. Peter Martyr is the first Dominican saint. And it's because he was martyred. So St. Dominic is not the first Dominican saint, but St. Peter Martyr is. And so on the left, we have St. Peter Martyr joins the Order of Preachers, which is the official name of the Dominicans. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not one where I couldn't really make the links, but maybe other people could, or maybe you have made a link with this one, Kathryn. But the one on the right is St. Nicholas and the Miracle of the Three Maidens. And if people are not familiar with that one, there was a man who had 3 daughters, and he was very poor, and he didn't have money for dowries for them, and they were destined to not be living a very good life because they couldn't get married. And St. Nicholas secretly provided a dowry for each of them. He threw gold coins into the window of their house, and so all of the 3 maidens were able to get married and avoid a very, very difficult life.
Yeah, so just like St. Peter took on his robes for his vocation, St. Nicholas's miracle allowed these 3 ladies to take on their robes for their vocation as wives.
Well, there you go. That's a good. Yeah, I like it. Okay, that works for me.
Okay, let's try another one.
Okay. Yeah. So this one might be a little easier, I think, for people like me to get the connection. So we've got St. Peter Martyr heals a mute child, and on the left, and on the right we have St. Nicholas resurrects a child, and they're both. So this has to do with miraculous healings that both saints possessed. And take a look at these angels in both of them.
Right.
And
wow.
Yes. Yeah. That's really powerful images.
Yeah, again, people take some time, pause. If you got this on your computer, zoom in, take a good look, and or go to the website itself. You get to have so much fun on the virtual tour on this website and really take it all in.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
Right. So what these two do next?
So we have, this one was really interesting, and I had not heard of this this miracle of St. Peter Martyr, but it has to do with conversion. And he invokes a cloud to convert a listener. So remember, he was preaching and teaching during the time of the heresy of the Cathars and the Albigensians. So some pretty intense heresies. I mean, I think the Albigensian movement was so far off, it wasn't even considered a heresy anymore. It was like, that's something totally different. And so that's on the left. And then on the right is St. Nicholas and the resurrection of the three children and the conversion of the innkeeper. So we've got the conversion there. And the three children that St. Nicholas resurrected, they had been killed and put in pickling brine, and the innkeeper, perhaps, or somebody else, was planning on selling them, if you can imagine, as meat.
What?
Have you not heard of that story?
I always saw the kids climbing out of a bucket. I didn't understand or ever hear the whole pickling thing.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And see, this is my theory. I think, well, do you have the tradition of finding a pickle in the Christmas tree?
I've heard of it. I didn't know. Is it connected to this?
I feel like it must be. Like, why would you put a pickle in a Christmas tree?
Oh, golly.
But I know it's pretty gruesome, but my children, do you know what? It's these kinds of, these Northern European legends are just the best, aren't they, Kathryn?
Hey, got to bring back those hardcore fables. Forget the Mickey Mouse stuff. Let's go hardcore.
Exactly. Yes. So you've got the conversion, a miraculous conversion in both places. Yeah.
And I love how they planned out the artistry in this and having the clouds and the layouts being so similar, beautifully done.
Yes, because you can see the angels are kind of in with clouds on St. Nicholas's side, and then you've got the cloud in the conversion scene on St. Peter Martyr. Okay.
This one, you've got a little arrow on here. There's something big going on.
I do. And I'm just going to read a little bit about St. Peter Martyr and what he's doing here. So this is his martyrdom. And this is from the God's Dogs website on him. One of the earliest members of the Order of Preachers, St. Peter preached vigorously against the heresy of the Cathars, despite threats against his life. Due to his efforts, many Cathars converted to Catholicism, leading a group of Milanese Cathars to plot against him and to hire an assassin, one Carino of Balsamo. On April 6, 1252, Carino and an accomplice set upon Peter and his companion as they made their way from Como to Milan. Carino struck Peter's head with an axe, and Peter rose to his knees, reciting the beginning of the Apostles' Creed, and according to legend, dipped his fingers in his own blood and wrote on the ground, "Credo in unum Deum," before dying. It would seem that preaching is a dangerous business. So I have this arrow here because if you look really closely, you can see that he's written Credo in unum Deum. And so this has to do with the Creed, which is 1,700 years old this year.
That's right.
There's another saint who wrote the Creed in her blood, and that was Saint Therese of Lisieux.
Oh.
She did that on her deathbed. Yeah. Pretty intense. Wow. I know. The Creed.
It's going to make you say the Creed differently at Mass now.
Yes. Think of those two. And of course, here's St. Nicholas confronting Arius at the Council of Nicaea. And
I think we're going to have to send a updated picture for our listeners on this one, because that looks like the Pickle Boys again.
Oh no! Oh gosh,
We'll
sorry.
fix that, folks. We'll set that up on Discord for you. And again,
go
to the website, look at the virtual tour.
Yes, absolutely. And do you know why? Because I know why. Sorry, this is my fault. Trying to put everything together. It's this gesture that Saint Nicholas has in his debate. It's exactly the same way, and we've seen that gesture when Saint Stephen was preaching, and he was trying to that Juan de Juanes had painted. So it's a very similar physical gesture in both of them. So sorry about that.
Oh, you mean he's not throwing a punch?
I know. And this is Saint Methodosius wrote of Saint Nicholas, thanks to the teachings of Saint Nicholas, the metropolis of Myra alone was untouched by the filth of the Arian heresy, which it firmly rejected as a death-dealing poison. Yes.
Nice.
I know. I love these tough saints.
I know. It's got to have tough saints.
Exactly. And so the death of, we've got this is the last one. The death of St. Peter.
The final moments.
Martyr, and the death of St. Nicholas. And here we can find lots of commonalities, how they're lying down on their deathbed. But one of the things that, of course, we spotted is you can see in St. Peter Martyr's painting or lunette, you have a little black and white dog, and he's looking up at the saint. But what's interesting is on the lunette of the death of St. Nicholas, you have a little dog looking up at the saint. And I want to say maybe looking up at the angels carrying them to heaven. And I just wonder if that's confirmation that all dogs go to heaven. Anyway.
Oh, that's it.
that must be it. It's true.
It's also
Debate
confirmation
over.
That Alix and I love dogs. Okay.
I know. We can spot a dog in sacred art. Almost as fast as we can spot Jesus. Do you know what I mean?
Sounds like a whole season right there. Dogs in sacred art.
Exactly. Top 10 dogs of the sacred art. Yeah.
There you go. So, all right. So we have worked all the way around the chapels. We did the ceiling from the front door to, and here it is, the main altar in the sanctuary. And oh my goodness, that gold work just blows you away. Yeah, there's a lot of not just gold leafing, but also gold smithing that was incorporated into the church in and around. You'll see a lot of different sculpting work, probably because there are a lot of really good guilds. And then down at the communion rail on the right-hand side, you'll see very small, the icon of St. Nicholas. They put that thing right at eye level. You get to be eye to eye with St. Nicholas. I've actually seen people walk by, kiss their hand, touch St. Nicholas. So lovely. And then next to that is a bust of St. Nicholas, and it's actually a reliquary. And on the chest of the bust is a relic of St. Nicholas.
Wow. Do you know what it is? Yeah. What the relic is?
I don't know what part it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but just an absolute breathtaking view of the main chapel here. What's interesting, though, is we're going to take a closer look at what's on either side of the main altar. And that's these
Can I just say, before you switch, I was going to say, look at how three-dimensional these paintings are, these frescoes. Look at how they just come out at you. Oh my gosh.
My daughter had to grab me at one point in time and tell me stop taking pictures of the paintings on the columns. Because I'm like, wait a minute, is that three-dimensional? She's like, Mom,
I know.
Look at the other stuff, not just the columns.
I know. This would be, do you know what? This is one of those places my poor husband would have to be, how many times would he be catching me from tripping? Because he does that all the time.
Or running into someone?
Yeah, running into something, walking into a pillar. No, I do that all the time. But this place, wow.
Yeah, we were wowed so much. We actually had to stop. Let's kneel and pray because you get blown away. You just need to take a moment to be like, wow, this is all for you, God. That's amazing.
Exactly. I know. I always think of it. Sacred art should kind of get our eyes and our minds and everything prepared for heaven. And this definitely does, it's like so much. And it's just here.
I saw a quote somewhere. They said, you can't walk in here without being changed in some way.
I believe it. I believe it. Was it crowded? I'm just curious. Was it crowded?
That's the best part about it. It really wasn't, because it's not easily visible from any main street. So unless your intent is to go find it, you might miss it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Amazing.
All right. So a little close up here on either side of the main altar. And the first time Alix saw these, I think you were like, oh, Wandawanis.
Yeah. Yes.
We're starting to recognize his classic head tilt, which I think I've actually picked up myself. I just realized that in some of my paintings I've done of Jesus and stuff. I always have the little head tilt now. I like Wandawanis' work. So
yes,
but these two incredible masterpieces were commissioned by the Brotherhood of the Holy Trinity and San Miguel, or Saint Michael, a very powerful guild dedicated to the manufacturing of cloth. It has the honor of being the oldest in the city, and its brotherhood had a chapel in this parish of Saint Nicolas. In 1542, there was a contract written up with the Brotherhood and the workshop of Wandawanis, and the chapel was to be decorated with altarpieces of the Roman style and structure and dedicated to the Trinity and Saint Michael. So you can actually still have the contracts, which I think is so cool. I love it when they have that kind of documentation.
No, I do too. I think that's fascinating. Yeah.
So, and they actually say that they estimate this as being one of the first works that Wandawanis did without his father.
Hey.
Excuse me. So, yeah, very.
This is
work.
really cool. And do you know what? I'm just looking. Sorry. If you look on the right panel, seems to be a lot of Saint Michael. The two the four side panels on either side of the image of Christ, because you can see him above the castle. I think, remember, there was a plague in Rome, and the Pope prayed that the plague be eradicated, and you can see Saint Michael above. I think, is it called the Chapel of Saint Michael now, or maybe it was Castle Gandolfo?
Probably.
I can't remember. Yeah, sorry for not knowing that specifically, but then right below that, which is like quite fitting when you think about plagues and things, he's thrusting Satan down into hell.
Yeah.
So cool. I love it. But there are battles and things, and in the end, you've got this triumph.
Mm-hmm. Now, these altarpieces had to be moved because they weren't originally here.
Okay.
So, because the church has gone through some restyling, and now that it's in a Baroque setting, this is moved from its original location. So some things got rearranged a little bit, but pretty much, still you've got the Holy Trinity and Saint Michael. And
nice.
They've been in this location since the 18th century that they are in now. And then we're going to take a closer look at these center images on both of these. So here they are freestanding.
They're beautiful.
So we have the portrait of the Virgin, and it's actually called Veronica the Virgin. But that's not, this is Veronica of the veil of, Jesus at the, on the way of the cross. Veronica in this case just simply means true image.
Yeah. And you can see her Ave Maria little symbol above her. So that's another way to help you know that that's actually the Blessed Mother.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice. Yeah, you got to pick up little symbols and look, because that could be confusing for some folks.
Yeah.
But the way that she's portrayed, just her simple, loving look straight at you. It's beautifully done.
You know, it reminds me, I love that blue behind her halo. And I love the halo. I really,
it really radiates.
It is. There's an atmospheric phenomena that looks a lot like that, and I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, and I'm sure people would have seen it back then as well. But looking at these two, she really reminds me of the moon, and Christ reminds me of the sun. You know how Bishop Sheen used to make that connection, Archbishop Fulton Sheen. And that's what it reminds me of.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's like, now that you say that, I can't unsee that. It's like, oh,
I know. Yeah.
Especially with that dark blue behind her and then the radiant gold around Christ.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah. Again,
What's
probably something that was intentional.
Is these two pieces were actually back to back at one point in time.
Okay.
Yeah, so they were taken apart so that they could be seen separately in each of the two spaces. But at one point in time, they probably would have been flipped from one to the other.
Yeah. No, it's great. And then that head tilt, everybody? That Juan de Juana's head tilt. Yeah.
And I like that Juan actually, when he does these portraits of Christ like this, is actually looking to the iconographic style. He's doing the full gold background. He's doing the straight on look. He just naturalizes it a little more.
Yeah. No, he was an incredibly talented artist.
So let's take a little closer look at the main altar itself. All in gold, carved wood, probably gold plating. Little this, little that. We have more Juan de Juanes here, starting at the cover of the tabernacle. And we have the Savior of the Eucharist, is what I think he calls it. And then way up above, we have Our Lady of the Rosary, pointing to the Dominicans. This image always seems to be associated with them.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Yeah. And then a better look at the central statues. Here we have our two patrons. I just went blank.
Saint Peter Martyr.
That's Nicholas. It. Saint Peter. I almost said Vincent, and I'm like, no. He's got a sword in his head.
Yes,
Saint Peter, yes.
Yeah, that's how you know.
I believe he's also
Peter
pierced. I think he's also pierced through the chest from back to front. The statue.
Yeah, you can see. Yeah, you. Oh, really? Yeah. Well, because you can see it in the stained glass window.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, our little pickle boys.
I know. They're
here too.
Yes.
I am not going to get that out of my head forever, Alix. Now,
no, you're going to have
pickle boys.
I know. See, and you're going to have to get a pickle for your Christmas tree. That's why I always told the girls, I think this is associated with those boys being in a pickle barrel.
See, we never did because it was a German thing.
I know.
We were Polish.
See, well, I'm neither, and we always did it because I'm Catholic.
Oh, because you like all those fun things.
There you go. Gruesome, fun Catholic traditions. Yes. So
that's so good to be Catholic. So much fun stuff.
Yeah, you can kind of channel that those gruesome tendencies into something good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we saw the front. Now we got to turn around, or the main altar, the front. Then you turn around again, all this glorious, beautiful painting and everything, to look at the main front door. When you're there, you got to kind of wrap yourself around the block to get to the Plaza of St. Nicholas to see the actual main front door.
Okay.
And the beautiful rose window above. They did such a fabulous job renovating this church. If you have the chance, look at their website and you can see some of the pre-renovation images. Wow. I mean, huge cracks in the ceiling, everything. And it just looks pristine now.
I would say that this would be a real challenge to renovate because it's so beautiful. And do you know what? Yeah. I'm just noticing this, the photograph on the left. Everybody's, pretty much there are two people that have their eyes down, but everybody's looking up. How can you not?
Exactly.
It's just everybody is looking up. I bet, your neck's going to be sore. Oh, you just have to go and get some nice glass of Spanish wine and afterwards.
Yeah, afterwards.
Just like, oh, my neck hurts.
But also outside in the little plaza of St. Nicholas, and I did kind of an outside view of, you can see where the bell tower is, and the arrow is pointing to this outdoor chapel. And this is set up in memory of the old parish cemetery. It's to the right of the doorway, and they have a little gate over it. The ceramic panel of the crucifixion has been renovated and reworked by an artist known as Juan de Scales. And he's known for his ceramic work. He has a ceramics studio in Valencia. He has a lot of pieces all around the city that he's renovated. This one was renovated in the 1960s. And it's fun to look at because to me, it's like I see the original Gothic image that was there with a slight Baroque feel, but I also see the 60s when I look at it too.
Yeah. And look at all of the elements that we've talked about in so many of our podcasts. The sun and the moon and the pelican and it's all there.
The sun and the moon takes us all the way back to the first season. If you haven't heard that one, I highly recommend it.
But it's, this is the thing, when you start building up this repertoire in your mind of sacred art, it just becomes richer and richer as you interact with these pieces that become more part of your experience.
Yeah, and an image like this, which has been around for a long time, that'll be one of my next works. When we're done recording, I have a commission to actually do a chalice pall that will have an image, not quite this ornate, but yes, of Mary and St. John below the cross of Christ. Yeah. So that's gonna make me feel connected to like the Gothic, Spain, the world, the whole Catholic world.
There you go. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then they did a little roof above this chapel, and it has a painted wood motif of the monogram of Christ, the IHS, and then also the instruments of the Passion. Yeah.
Beautiful. And how old is that? Do you know how old that
panel
is? Yeah.
I believe that's all supposed to be to that Gothic time period.
Okay.
I'd have to double check. It might have been later.
Okay. It's beautiful.
But then they also did a really great renovation throwback of an item I had only seen in a small scale. And they just recently did this during Lent when the bells are silent. At our church, we have the little clacker.
Yes. Yeah.
This one's a giant-sized one that rotates. There's a great video clip. We'll have the link in the show notes where you actually hear this thing and the tumbling little hammers. And they put it all the way up in their bell tower to call people to mass and to prayer with this clacker.
Yeah, that's amazing. I encourage people to watch that video because it sounds really cool. And it kind of makes you want to go there during Lent. So just to hear that, I don't know.
Yes.
I've never seen anything like that before.
Not like that. My goodness. That's huge.
No, I mean, yeah, they have the little one that one of the altar servers uses, but this is extraordinary.
Yeah. And then speaking of going there at Lent, I would love to be there for this procession. So I'd mentioned that earlier when we saw this statue of the repose of Christ in the chapel. They actually bring it out and we'll have procession with it. Good Friday. So it's the procession of the burial of Christ. And this is done by the Brotherhood of Cristo del Fossar. And this brotherhood, they have documents showing that this brotherhood existed from the very origins of the temple in 1238. Together with the title St. Nicholas, it is the oldest devotion in the parish, and it's preserved to this day. The brotherhood has an aim to promote the devotion to Christ of the Fossar and to promote public worship in cooperation with the parish. So they promote not only the procession of the burial on Good Friday, but also other Holy Week devotions, the May Cross, and also devotions such as their feast day of St. Nicholas, which there's great pictures and videos of how they celebrate the feast of St. Nicholas here.
Yeah. I have to say, on Instagram, for whatever reason, I'm completely fascinated with the Spanish processions. And I don't think anybody does processions like the Spanish. They're incredible. Right. And I love it. It seems like that's their thing and they do it really well. And again, yes, I'd love to go. And it's not like Mardi Gras, where I'm from. That's not what this is. This is something really unique. Yeah,
very powerful and prayerful.
Yes. Yeah. I love it.
Wow.
Yes. That was amazing.
I think Alix is booking a ticket to Spain.
I know. Well, my husband does a lot of work in Spain and I'm just trying to coordinate my schedule. Maybe I could, sneak in, be a stowaway. And
just tag along.
He can work. I'll go out and I'll work too. My job is to, share all this with our viewers, right?
There's so much more sacred art out there.
I know. But anyway, well, we want to thank you for listening to The Secrets of Sacred Art on StarQuest. To find previous episodes of The Secrets of Sacred Art and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/sacredart. You can send us comments by email at sacredart@sqpn.com, leaving us a comment on YouTube or visiting our channel on the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/discord.
Yeah, please share lots of pictures and comments and we'll share stuff too. There's so many more images.
Exactly. Like the right image.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. So this marks the end of our season of Sacred Arts. It had a Spanish flair to it. We had started off with talking about the Year of Hope, which we're in now. And hey, St. Jude, patron saint of hope. There we go. We're getting a whole connection front to back here.
Go. Yeah.
Yay. And then we'll be back next time. We'll do a special movies and TV crossover episode.
Yeah. Not sure which one it is yet, so it'll be a surprise. For all of us.
Surprise to us.
Yeah. We'll find something cool. Cool. Yes. So, and after that, we will be on a break and work on another season of The Secret of Sacred Art. And
so until then, I'm Kathryn Laffrey.
And I'm Alix Murray, hoping you find something beautiful. Bye-bye.